Amen. My topic this morning, I'll be doing a summary of the world wars. We will be condensing the histories, the King of the South and the King of the North, the triple application on the world wars. But the main purpose of our study is to see its application. We'll go through the functions of NATO and how we are weakened by today's mode of warfare. Before we move on, I would like to begin with a question this morning. What is the difference between a line of success and a line of failure? What is the difference between a line of success and a line of failure? When it comes down to our reform line of ancient Israel, modern Israel, the Alpha and the Omega, what is the difference?
I could just say my thought was one does their boss's work, the other one doesn't do their boss's work, sort of doesn't do the job that they're given. The other one does. So
thank you. Yes, we see in the line of success and the line of failure, the first angel's message always have mistakes in their message in every history. But the difference is with the second angel's message. The first angel's message always have error in geography. If we see the line of Christ, which is the Omega of ancient Israel, Christ is the second angel's message. Christ taught a perfect message. It corrected the message of the first angel, and Christ understood the nature of the kingdom. And if you compare it to the Alpha of modern Israel, our second angel's message on the Alpha of modern history is Samuel Snow in the Millerite history. Samuel Snow did not understand the nature of God's kingdom. He taught the error of the first angel's message. The difference is with the second angel's message. We are in the history of success. We don't teach the error of the first angel's message. All the line begins the same, but when it comes to the second angel, you have to start switching between failure and success. We have the same pattern as the world wars and pyrrhus, and we will also see that in our study for today. World War I and World War II, in connection to the fall of Alexander Empire, has two histories. First, the fall of Alexander's empire, and the second one is the fall of Germany, which is World War I and World War II. When we zoom in to these two histories, it gives us the histories of four wars. We have the third and the fourth Diadochi Wars. And we have the First World War and the Second World War. And it gives us World War III. Taking the triple application, we have an understanding of the type of World War III. But the complication is when we bring in the Pyrrhic War. Now, as we all understand that the Pyrrhic War is the bridge between X-27 and the Fourth Diadochi War. And it is also the connecting link that will bring us to this. We have a strong understanding of World War III because, first, we have two witness history. We have two witness history. We have a strong methodology and the line that guides us to its application. We'll begin with the Fourth Diadochi War. Can everybody see my board from up here?
Yes.
Can you see the writing?
Yes.
Yes, Becky. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can see.
We will combine the Fourth Diadochi War and Pyrrhic War. The reason we combine the Fourth Diadochi War and Pyrrhic War is because of the history of Pyrrhus, the history of Pyrrhus. But in our study today, we will miss out some smaller details, but it is still important. Now, the reason World War II and the Fourth Diadochi War was given to us first is because it gives us most of the information from 2014 all the way to Sunday law. And the Third Diadochi War and the First World War gave us information from 1989 to 2014. Okay. Now, King of the North and King of the North takes satellite states. King of the North, satellite states. Demetrius took Athens, and in the history of Pyrrhus, theory was taken. And then we miss some information. As I've already said, the Fourth Diadochi War and the Second World War gave us more information from 2014 all the way through to Sunday law. Now, King of the North, there is an alliance between the King of the North and the King of the South. There is an alliance, and at the same time, there is an attack. The King of the South attacks satellite states. Demetrius and Pyrrhus form an alliance, and at the same time, the King of the South attacks the satellite state. Soon after this attack is Ipsus, and we've been going through that study. We have Ipsus, which we have been enlightened with, and there's more to come from Elder Tess. Our study today, when we'll be discussing history, at the same time, we'll be seeing its application. Now, in 2014, there was an alliance between Putin and Trump. There was an alliance between Putin and Trump that is going to be used in 2016. So in 2014, there's an alliance, King of the North and King of the South. And at the same time, the alliance, which is going to be used in 2016, and at the same time, Russia invades Ukraine. Invades Ukraine. And then we have Heraclea. We have Heraclea, which is the fight between the North and the South. We have Esculum and Beneventum, which is the defeat of the King of the South and a death in Argos. A death and a defeat. Beneventum, a progressive fall or a defeat of the King of the South before it is destroyed. Now, World War II follows a similar pattern. World War II follows a similar pattern, but it gives us proxy war between the North and the South. So it's a proxy war between the North and the South. A Spanish civil war between the Soviet Union and Germany. A Spanish civil war. As we go further along our line, there was a pact, the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. This is an alliance between the King of the North, which is Hitler, and the King of the South, Stalin. And we can see the similarities with the Fourth Diadochi Wars. This pact is an alliance. It is an alliance. Now, the purpose of this alliance is shortly realized with the invasion of Poland. Hitler and Stalin went into alliance through the invasion of Poland. Invasion of Poland. With three allies: France, Britain, and Poland itself. France, Britain, and Poland. Shortly after the alliance, the pact crumbles. primarily to do with trade. And the breakdown was in August 1940. The pack crumbles 1940. But they're able to settle their differences for a short period of time before it goes all out of war at the Operation Barbarossa. Operation Barbarossa. We won't go into details on this this invasion, but if you want to prove it, you can go to past presentations, or you can look it through histories. Now, Operation Barbarossa was a war from 1941 to 1945, where the King of the South was defeated. So there is a defeat of the King of the South. And we all understand this as World War II is a history of failure. All the way up to 1989. 1989. Now, in 1989, we can see that it is the end of a proxy war between the USA and the Soviet Union. It is a 10-year proxy war. A 10-year proxy war. A 10-year proxy war in Afghanistan. So I'll just write Afghanistan there. (1989) is the end of a proxy war between USA and the Soviet Union, and it is a 10-year proxy war in Afghanistan. The King of the North starts to take satellite states of the Soviet Union. Particularly the state we highlight is Ukraine. And the reason why we choose Ukraine is because we can thread Ukraine throughout our waymark. Now in 1989, Ukraine wants to change its alliance from the Soviet Union to the West. 1989, Ukraine wanted to change its alliance from the Soviet Union to the West. Now, if you go back through history, in the history of Paris, theory changes its alliance from Tarentum to Rome. So in 1989, the Soviets, or if you go back to history, Tarentum did not respond. So what happened here in 1989, Ukraine wanted to change its alliance to the West, from the Soviet to the West. And the Soviet Union did not respond. Same as in the history of Pyrrhus. Theory changed its alliance from Tarentum to Rome, and Tarentum did not respond. Now, when Ukraine does the same thing in 2014, the Soviet Union respond. In 2014, Ukraine wants to join NATO, and the King of the South responded to the change. I'll try to share screen. There is this article, and it's written by David Skidmore. David Skidmore. Now, the long form of NATO, Northern America Treaty Organization, and it was created in 1949. Now, this article, not this article, it's a book written by David Skidmore, and I'll just try to share screen. Share screen. Okay. Sure. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, it's clear, Becky.
Thank you. Written by David Skidmore. It's titled Paradoxes of Power, U.S. Foreign Policy in a Changing World. Now, in this book, there's a man mentioned in this book, Charles de Gaulle. Charles de Gaulle, which is Goulle. Charles de Gaulle, his thoughts on NATO in this book, he and I quote Charles de Gaulle words. He said, the main purpose of NATO is to keep Germany out and USA in and on top. It's a good book. It's a good book. And you can go online and read about it, about David Skidmore, the book that David Skidmore wrote on proxies of power, the U.S. foreign policy in a changing world. Now, as I've already said before, theory changes its alliance from Tarentum. Theory wanted to change its alliance from Tarentum to Rome. And just like Ukraine wanted to change its alliance from Soviet Union to the West. In 1989, they did not respond. But when it happens again in 2014, the Soviet Union responds to it. This is due to Ukraine wanting to join the NATO. Now there's an alliance between the King of the North And at the same time, there's a conflict. The king of the south, which is Russia, invading Ukraine. And it is always about the fighting over the spheres of influence. And this alliance is all set up. The alliance in 2014 was a setup for the 2016 election. As we all have known, 2016 is when the North and South comes together to take in their three enemies. 2016, North and South come together. Their three alliance, which is the executive, legislative, and the judicial system. As we go back in World War II, we see the alliance, the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. Sorry if I pronounced that wrongly. This alliance, which is Hitler and Stalin, is recognized when they invaded Poland. And the three alliance from this invasion was France, Britain, and Poland. As I've already stated, World War II, the history of World War II and the Fourth Diadochi Wars has more information on our line, on the line from 2014 all the way through Sunday Law. In 2018, the North and the South comes together, 2016, sorry, to taking these three enemies, which is the executive, the legislative, and the judicial system. And we will all understand that, which is 2016 is the election in America with the involvement of Cambridge Analytica. 2018, there is a fight between the North and the South. 2018, North and the South, sorry. And the North wins, then their relationship repairs temporarily, as we've seen in history. After the invasion of Poland, the pact crumbles, and then they repair their relationship before it broke out again at Operation Barbarossa. In 2018, they repair the relationship before the war in Raphia, as we've put Raphia in 2019. And in 2019, Russia takes a spheres of influence and wins. And this prolonged war took us all the way to 2021. And the King of the South begins to fall and finally defeated at Penium. And we've been going through this study from, I think from the last camp meeting, where Elder Paminda elaborated more on this conflict that has been happening in Ukraine. Now the fight is that the King of the North will take back his spheres of influence. Then there will be a cold war, as it has happened from here, a cold war. It also occurred between Beneventon and Argus. Then there will be a Cold War from Penium to Sandilor. 2020 was the defeat, and Sandilor is the death, the defeat of Pyrrhus to its death in the history of the Pyrrhic War. Now, the third Diadochi Wars. The third Diadochi War. In 1989, we'll put a Battle of Gabin. Battle of Gabin is not part of the third Diadochi War, but it's the end of the second Diadochi War. As in 1989 is not part of World War III. It is the end of the Cold War, as we've seen when we were filling in World War II. So 1989 is not part of World War III. It is the end of a war, a different war. Second World War, second Diadochi War is lined up with the Cold War. We'll talk a little bit about a Battle of Gabin. Battle of Gabin is from 315. Battle of Gabin. BC. And this is the story. This is the story of Antigonus. Antigonus here is the king of the north. Now the king of the south is defeated by the king of the north. So in the Battle of Gabin, the king of the south is defeated by king of the north. It is defeated from the inside. He is given up by his own people and has two alliances. So in the Battle of Gabin, there is a battle between king of the north and king of the south, and the king of the south was defeated from the inside. From the inside. He is given up by his own people. Now the king of the north has two allies. King of the north has two allies. One is Seleucus, and the other one is Pathan. Pathan. Now this is an ongoing war between king of the north, Antigonus, and king of the south. The king of the south here is Eumenes. Eumenes is the general that controls the east of Alexander's empire. He subdued all the satellite states of the east. As you know, that Alexander's empire is divided into many parts, and each part in the east has its own general. And what Eumenes has done, he places puppets general in the east. Okay, so this is the empire, Alexander's empire, and it's divided. It's divided. And Eumenes controls the east. And in the east, he has placed puppet generals in this eastern side. Now, Eumenes has a long conflict with Antigonus, and in this fight, they have many fights, but the Battle of Gabin is their final fight. They fought at this plain, which is Gabin, and Gabin is in the east, and Antigonus travels from the opposite direction. Now, a huge mistake was made by Eumenes in this battle. Eumenes, he left the baggage train. The baggage train. A baggage train. Unprotected, not far from the scene of battle. Now, these both sides, Eumenes and Antigonus, they fought with elephants. Yeah? And as the elephants charge to each other on the day of battle, there was this huge cloud, dust. And in this dust cloud, Antigonus took this opportunity in this cloud to sneak around from the front battle and took the baggage train. Now, the question we want to ask, what is so important about this baggage train? Now, Eumenes, in his army, he has this allied group, these special forces. They are called the Silver Shield. They're special forces. Now, the Silver Shield, they were Alexander's original army. They fought under Alexander the Great, and they were his special elite group, and they have allegiance. And in the break of the empire, Eumenes got this group. This elite group, in the Battle of Gabin, they have been fighting for Alexander. So throughout that time to 315 BC, they are by age, they're getting old, yeah? And they are still hard to be defeated. Now, in this baggage train, this elite group have everything that they had fought for in this baggage train. Everything they have worked for, everything they have fought for, everything they had, and their families, everything they had, and things about their families are all in this baggage train. So when Antigonus, Eumenes, and the Silver Shield, now Antigonus, when Antigonus took the baggage train, what the Silver Shield had is that they have lost all their lifetime work, because all their lifetime work was in this baggage train. So they surrendered to Antigonus to get back the baggage. And this is where Antigonus kills Eumenes. And when Antigonus kills Eumenes, Antigonus had the chance to have this silver shield, but he didn't want them. What he did, he took them to a remote part of the empire, divided them into small groups, and sent them to dangerous missions where they were killed. And that was his purpose, because Antigonus didn't want the silver shield. So we can see that Eumenes is defeated and was overthrown by his own people, because the silver shield, they sided with Antigonus. Okay? They surrendered to Antigonus all because of this baggage train. Now we have two things to remember. Two things to remember. That the Soviet Union was overthrown from the inside when the USA made the people dissatisfied. They had various measures, destroy the economy of the Soviet Union through the arms race, the space race, and the Afghanistan war, till it got to such a condition that the people of the Soviet Union overthrew their own government. So we can see that in application, USA takes spheres of influence. And where did we get that? From the Fourth Diadochi Wars, and this is where the king of the South was defeated from the inside. As I've already stated and said, in the history of failure and the history of success, the first angel's message always has mistakes. And along the way, in applications, I'm talking about applications, there is a switch between failure and success. And this applies also to the world wars. At the beginning, we have a direct application. Along the way, there will be a switch between the history of failure and the history of success. Now, the baggage train was only possible because of the elephants. The baggage train was only possible because of the elephants. If the elephants hadn't charged towards each other, if there weren't any dust clouds, Antigonus weren't able to take the baggage train. So the baggage train was only possible because of the elephants. So Gabin was won by the work of elephants, or Antigonus would not have taken the baggage train. The next battle we have in history, as we know, is Ipsus, was won because of elephants. Heraclea was won because of elephants. Escalon was won because of elephants. Beneventum was won because of elephants. And come to August, Pyrrhus was stuck in the city and they blocked all the gates. His army trapped in the city and they were destroyed. Pyrrhus was killed because of elephant. So in triple application, we have 6 battles, and every single one of them, the deciding element is the elephant, which is a symbol used for information war. We can now see the consistent in the story, the mode of warfare, as we have all understood. There was 2 alliances at the Third Diadochi Wars. King of the North had 2 allies, Seleucus and Pathan. Come to our history, the King of the North had 2 alliances. King of the North had 2 alliances. One was papacy, and the other one was the Mujahideen. Papacy, John Paul II, the Mujahideen of the Afghanistan. If you go back to history, the relationship of Antigonus and his 2 allies, Seleucus and Pathan, falls apart. Once Antigonus won this battle, he took to himself the title, the empire, that the side that Eumenes held. So he is now known as the Master of the East, or the Master of Asia, Master of the East. Through this story, Pathan begins to grow in power. So we have Antigonus, King of the North, becoming more and more powerful, King of the North, Master of the East, and he starts killing anyone who looks like a threat. And one of the threats he finds is his former allies, Pathan. King of the North, which is Antigonus, then kills Pathan. King of the North kills Pathan. Now in 1989, the USA used Mujahideen to help take down the Soviet Union. Mujahideen. The Mujahideen changed their name to Taliban. So Mujahideen, they are the Talibans. They increased in power in 1996. From 1989, they increased their power from 91 to 96, which we now know as the Taliban. And they become the power of Afghanistan. The USA starts to see this as a threat. Now I know I've got only a few minutes left. I'll just try to finish up this from 2001. We haven't even got to halfway through my presentation. So I'll try to just finish off with 2001, and so that we can have our second presentation. And then we'll just try to summarize the part which we've done. Now the USA.
Yabaki, you have still 15 minutes, so you've still got a bit of time.
Oh, sorry, because my time says I've got only 5 minutes. Thank you.
You got 15 minutes.
Thank you. Okay, now the USA starts to see them as a threat when the Taliban increases in power, come up to 96. In 1996, they take control of Afghanistan. So Taliban is the government of Afghanistan. USA starts to see them as a threat. Now, what the mistakes that Americans did in 2001, they are now realizing is that they confused the Taliban with Al-Qaeda. So in 2001, USA goes to Afghanistan, the Americans goes to Afghanistan and overthrows. In 2001, now the terrorist attack was in September, and I think this invasion happened in November of 2001. So USA goes to Afghanistan and overthrew the Taliban. Why did the USA go into Afghanistan in 2001? Because Al-Qaeda was able to hide out in some portion of Afghanistan. So when they went out into Afghanistan, it was to root out and destroy Al-Qaeda. They couldn't do that without overthrowing the Taliban government of Afghanistan. Once they were in Afghanistan, they decided that while they were there, they might as well do a full regime change, not just attack the Al-Qaeda, but remove Taliban from having political power. And they now recognize that this is where it all went wrong. They should only have attacked Al-Qaeda and leave the Taliban government intact, not to try and remake the political system of Afghanistan, because completely removing the Taliban is impossible, which is why they still have this war 19 years later. But they did overthrow it. They did overthrow the Taliban, and they're no longer the government of Afghanistan. If you go back, let's go back to the third Diadochi Wars, to this Battle of Gabin. Now, Antigonus kills Python. Python and Seleucus flee. He's no longer loyal to Antigonus. The other generals start to see that Antigonus, that he is have nationalistic power. He's like a unilateral power. And these three alliances form an alliance against him. So the three alliances are Cassander, Ptolemy, and Lysimachus. And they sent him an ultimatum. And they told Antigonus, stop trying to have nationalistic power, start acting multilaterally. All of the generals should have or should share the same power. They have to work together to share the divisions of the kingdom. And they tell and they told Antigonus to get in line. So these allies send an ultimatum. Now, what is this word ultimatum? Ultimatum. Searching it through Google, ultimatum, it is a final demand or statement of terms, the rejection of which will result or a breakdown in relation. So this realized, they sent an ultimatum telling Antigonus, get in line. Get in line. And what did Antigonus, what was Antigonus' reaction? He didn't want to. So he invades the spheres of influence of his enemy, of one of his enemy that he's never gotten along with, and that is Ptolemy. Antigonus and Ptolemy has never been friends. So when the relationship breaks down, the first person is going in, so when their relationship is going to break down, the first person he's going to attack is Ptolemy, and that is the territory of cold Syria down through Israel. And this territory is where Raphia and Panium were fought, and it's always been this territory. And as you can see in our in the board, we can see how the third diadochi wars has filled in the empty space that I've left from the fourth diadochi wars and the World War II. And as I'm repeating, fourth diadochi wars and World War II has more information from 2014 all the way through Sunday Law and the third diadochi war and the World War I has more information from 1989 to 2014. Now there's another battle between the king of the north and the king of the south called the Battle of Gaza. Battle of Gaza. It is also known the Battle of Raphia, and this is not the same as Daniel 11. It's another battle, but they have the same name. They have the same name. We're calling it the Battle of Gaza as Elder Test had in her study. So in this Battle of Gaza, this is where Dimitri and fights Ptolemy against the advice of his general. So Dimitri versus Ptolemy against the advice of the general, against the advice of his generals. In this battle, Demetrius has no experience, whereas Ptolemy has decades of experience way back from Alexander time. Now, be reminded how Vladimir Putin has more experience to Trump in 2019, where Trump fought here against the advice of all his generals. Ptolemy wins in this battle. He defeats Demetrius, but then Demetrius comes back and drives Ptolemy back this area, which is cold Syria, and takes back all the territory to the borders of Egypt. So in this Battle of Gaza, Antigonus, we know that Antigonus, Dimitri is the son of Antigonus. Antigonus comes and he drives Ptolemy back from cold Syria, and he takes all this territory right to the borders of Egypt. So here, right to the borders. He takes back all his spheres of influence from Ptolemy. Then he decided not to go back to Egypt because he has two destruction. One is Seleucus, One is Seleucus, and the other one is the Nabateans. The Nabateans. And then these are the descendants of Ishmael. Seleucus in this battle has gone back to Babylon. Here, in this battle, Antigonus is going to make a peace treaty with his three enemies, Ptolemy, Cassander, Lysichamus, and the peace is called the Peace of Dynasty. Peace of Dynasty. He's going to go into the Babylonian War, and then Antigonus is going to fight with Seleucus. And Seleucus is going to win this battle. They're going to go into a Babylonian War. And Seleucus wins this battle, and he begins the Seleucid dynasty. Now in the USA, in its application, in USA, it has an ongoing war with the Soviet Union over the spheres of influence. And as we've already seen, it has two allies. It has two allies, the papacy and the Taliban, the Mujahideen. The Mujahideen renaming themselves as the Taliban. And this relationship breaks down. The Taliban becomes more powerful. They take the government in 1996, and in 2001, the USA overthrows the Taliban. So the USA invades the Taliban. They take in the government in 2006, and in 2001, the USA overthrows the Taliban, turning on their former alliance against the wishes and advices of John Paul II. They turn their attention to Iraq, at which point in time, other nations of the UN starts to recognize that the USA is not playing by the rule. And they say to US, we'll put an ultimatum here. Stop acting like a unilateral power. Okay? Just as what these three allies, Cassander, Ptolemy, and Lysimachus, sending an ultimatum to Antigonus, the same was done after 2001, between 2001 to 2003. And those three allies were in 2003 was France, Russia, and Germany. And now we know that France and Russia, they have power in the UN, and they say to America to try to invade Iraq, to try to not to invade Iraq, they say, we will stop you if you try to invade Iraq through international laws. And as Antigonus, history says, USA says it doesn't want to respond. And they invaded Iraq, which was the spheres of influence of Russia, all the way back to the history of the Cold War. Now, I know I have limited time. So the ultimatum was from Russia, France, and Germany. And the specifications of the information was done through Elder Paminda in one of the previous camp meeting we had when he share screened these politicians from Russia. I could remember that. I would remember his name. So Antigonus attacks the spheres of influence of Ptolemy. USA invades the spheres of influence of Russia. And come to 2019, we have this battle, King of the North and King of the South, over those same spheres of influence. And the King of the North, Donald Trump, this is in 2019, they fought against the advice of his general, and he loses. King of the South, which is Vladimir Putin, swept himself all of those spheres of influence, and now Trump is going, the King of the North is going to come back and piece by piece try to get back what he has lost. And as we know, 1989, everything was taken back to the borders of Russia. And so is in Penium, 1989, everything will be taken back to its borders of Russia in Penium. And as we've already seen that 1989 to 2001, this methodology, the alpha and the beginning, the omega and the beginning, they're same. So 2019 to Penium. The fall of the King of the South. And we can see the fall and the death of the King of the South. So as from 2019 all the way up to Penium. Let's just finish this Third Dirty Wars, and we'll leave the World War I maybe for our next class. So the USA wasn't able to take Russia because it has two destruction, two enemies, the papacy and the Nabateans. Yeah? The Nabateans. So in 2019, there is a battle between the King of the North and the King of the South. And the King of the South wins this battle over a spheres of influence. Spheres of influence. And in 2021, which we have labeled it as Penium, and we know this is a progressive fall, and we've understood from our Vespers classes how simple prophecy is, but the reality is very complex. So in Penium, there will be a battle between the King of the North and the King of the South, where the King of the North will win his battle over the spheres of influence. And as I've already said, the USA wasn't able to take Russia because they have two destruction, which is the papacy and they are not friends, and the Nabadians. And there will be a war between Penium and Sandilo, between USA and papacy. And in this war, the papacy ascends, it's achieved its political power till at Sandilo, we mark it as resurrection. As we go through our prophetic message in our line. Now, I guess we have another World War I before we go into conclusion, but due to time, I will just simply summarize how the first angel's message, or the beginning of the reform line, the application is always direct, but when it goes along the line, there will be a switch of the failure and success as we do our application. As I've already stated, how complexity and reality is compared to prophecy, and we've seen how throughout the Record Wars and the World War II, they have more information on us from 2014 to Sandilo, which is why World War II and the Fourth Diadochi was first given to us, we were being given to us by our elders before we were educated by the Third Diadochi Wars and the First Diadochi War, which will give us more information from 1989 to 2014. I guess that's the summary of the first part of our class for today. Anyone have a comment or thought before we end our study for today?
Often there's a similarity between the beginning and the end, and with 1989 and then the end being Panium forward, with Russia attacking Ukraine, and in 1989 with they were overthrown from within. So the people from within overthrew the government, basically. And I do wonder, I don't expect you to answer this, but could it be possible that as this war drags out with Ukraine, that the people could eventually turn on Vladimir Putin? And just a thought, just a random thought, but the beginning and the end often do, have that similarity. So I know at the moment, I think they're still, getting all that disinformation and thinking that it's them against the rest of the world. But you do see in the news just different officers in the Russian army and the difficulties that they're facing, and some soldiers refusing to fight. Whether or not that's disinformation too, I don't know. But just a thought.
Thank you. Thank you, Catherine. Sorry, I wasn't looking at our chat column. I think Oni asked about the book, the title of the book again. It is The Paradoxes of Power, U.S. Foreign Policy in a Changing World. And it is written by David Skidmore. Thank you. Do we have another thought, or does anyone have any comment before we close with a prayer? Now, I believe that ends our presentation, our study for this morning. I would ask if we could bow our heads in prayer. We thank you, Lord, for this Sabbath morning. We thank you, Lord, for the methodology that you have given us that has guided us through the complication of the reality of your prophecies. We see what is happening externally, and we thank you, Lord, for choosing us into this movement, for giving us the methodology, helping us, guide us through what we have for today. Lord, please help us in this difficult time, the struggles that each one of us is encountering. We thank you, Lord, for your strength through your messages. Thank you, Lord, for today's messages. And I also pray and thank for our next speaker, Catherine, for today. We ask for your blessing this Sabbath morning. In Jesus' name we pray.